Hi, everybody. Today is Thursday, April 2nd, 2026, and our dear friend, our brother, Pepe Escobar, is here with us. Welcome back, Pepe.
Welcome, Nima. Greetings from Buddhist Southeast Asia. I'm very, very depressed today, so I already beg forgiveness to all of you if I explode. I spent most of the day exploding today in rage, considering what's going on, and considering that now this is a war against over 90 million Iranian people. It's a war against them. It has nothing to do with all that bullshit coming from that filho da puta barbarian. No, it's worse. Now it's a war of revenge, blind revenge, impotence, rage against the whole of Iran's population. And if that doesn't make your blood boil, I'm sorry, but you're not human.
Pepe, let's start with finally we had Donald Trump talking about yesterday. He's addressing at 9 p.m., addressing American people about the war, his update on war, which was nothing new about what he was talking about. But here is what he said in terms of particularly that line of attacks, attacking civilians and infrastructure in Iran. Here is what he said.
Period of time, no deal is made. We have our eyes on key targets. If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously. We have not hit their oil, even though that's the easiest target of all, because it would not give them even a small chance of survival or rebuilding. But we could hit it, and it would be gone, and there's not a thing they could do about it. They have no anti-aircraft equipment. Their radar is 100% annihilated. We are unstoppable as a military force. The nuclear sites that we obliterated with the B-2 bombers have been hit so hard that it would take months to get near the nuclear dust, and we have it under intense satellite surveillance and control. If we see them make a move, even a move for it, we'll hit them with missiles very hard again. We have all the cards, they have none. It's very important that we keep this conflict in perspective.
Yeah. I can confirm each and everything that he said is 100% lie.
These are monster. It's one monster lie after another. By now, I would say even grains of dust in the Sahara Desert know that this kind of information is being fed to him, especially by the Three Stooges, those absolutely disgusting infrahumans, the Secretary of Forever Wars, Jared Kushner, and Witkoff. These are the people who are feeding him these lies that he reproduces because obviously he doesn't read shit. So obviously he doesn't do fact checking of anything. And obviously if you are around him, you have to kiss his ass. Otherwise, you lose your job. So much worse than all that, Nima. It's the line that it's been going all over the world that formalized, in fact, which formally already indicts him as a war criminal. The only place left for the baboon of Barbaria is on a war crimes tribunal, where he's going to be condemned and preferably exiled to a high security prison with forced labor to the rest of his miserable days. He says that he's going to bomb Iran to the Stone Ages. He could not even pronounce it correctly instead of Stone Age, to the Stone Ages. Well, to be very lenient and diplomatic, we can say that when his ancestors were still trying to make fire, the real barbarians, Iranians were already an extremely civilized empire. So that starts with that. To put in context, who are the real barbarians, right? But the most worrying development, and obviously this was not condemned by the UN, was not condemned by anybody, was not condemned by the West. You have the President of the United States basically characterizing himself as a war criminal on live TV for the whole planet, and nothing happens. Well, at least it's all clear now what these people are. Not only himself, but the people who are advising him, and especially the people who keep him on a leash because of the compromat that they have on him. So that's one of the reasons why he needs to go. He needs to keep going this madness for, he says, another 4 weeks, but it could be even more. And what's going to happen in these next 4 weeks? They're going to bomb the infrastructure of Iran to rubble everywhere. It's going to be, it already is, and it's going to be even more horrible. And there are no limits. They are bombing pharmaceutical plants. They are bombing like they bombed bridges, including the B1 bridge from Tehran to Karachi. It's a beautiful bridge. It was inaugurated only a while ago. It's the highest bridge in the whole of West Asia. Essential because this connection, highway connection, Tehran-Karachi, is one of the most important in Iran, as you know, Nima. They bombed the Institut Pasteur, which I've been to a few Institut Pasteurs around the world. They are essential as health centers, vaccination centers, scientific research centers. This one in Iran, if I'm not mistaken, it comes from the 1920s. And that's it. And they're bombing, I just saw 5 minutes ago, they're bombing, once again, civilian neighborhoods in Tehran and across Isfahan as well. So this is what they're going to do. It's out of impotence, it's out of blind rage, it's envy, because they're a bunch of piece of shit, uncultured barbarians, and that's their revenge against Iran. If you are a sovereign resistance civilization, nation, civilization, state like Iran is, no, this is, for them, this is what, it's the absolute opposite of everything that they preach about and they pose that they're standing for. No, they're worse than barbarians. So-called barbarians, and I'm a big fan of nomad empires, which used to be qualified by the settled empires as barbarians, including the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire. They qualified non-settled peoples as barbarians, but they had many redeeming qualities, including artistic ones, like the Scythians, for instance. These people, they have absolutely nothing. The only thing that they have is powerful bombs. And obviously, out of their impotence, and now that they, especially the ruling classes of the Empire of Chaos, they are seeing the whole scam that they built after 1945 collapsing in front of their eyes. We can barely imagine how resentful they are. But we can understand where this rage is coming from. There's not going to be any more free lunch for all of you. And it takes one resistance nation, sovereign, to collapse the whole house of cards. But I'm very, very depressed by what awaits the people in Iran and Iran in the next few weeks. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be horrible because it's the only thing they have left, Nima. There's nothing. They lost all the military bases. They lost most of their assets everywhere. They have troops living in hotels. They lost the control of the Strait of Hormuz. They're losing the control of the petrodollar. Soon they're going to lose most of those stupid Gulf petromonarchies. Two of them are already composing with Iran, Oman and Qatar. Sooner or later, the other ones will have to do something, otherwise they're going to be disappeared. They're going to become a mere foot, not even a side note of history, especially the Emirates. Especially the Emirates, which for all practical purposes, they are already at war with Iran. So they are, for all practical purposes, whatever they say, it doesn't matter. They are at war. They are facilitating attacks by the Americans. There are lots of U.S. military personnel, especially around Dubai. So get ready. They're not going to last long if it goes on like this. And the Iranians, they know everything that's happening everywhere, and they're making notes. They have names, they have locations, they have satellite information, you name it. You know. And Saudi Arabia is the big joker in the pack. Nah, Nima, we still don't know where they are leaning to. Things changed since the kiss my ass saying coming from the baboon of Barbaria. MBS, with his ego, wow, he's planning a long-term revenge. And it will be very painful for the Americans. It already started. He already said that he's not buying weapons from the US anymore. So we can presuppose that they're going to start buying from Russia sooner or later. By the way, if I'm not mistaken, there is a phone call today, Nima, Putin MBS. I wonder what they're going to talk about. This is going to be fun. There'll be no leaks, but this is going to be fun. So this is changing. So what we have left is Bahrain. Bahrain is going to collapse. That monarchy is going to disappear. Kuwait, sooner or later, like our Iraqi friends are already theorizing, probably is going to be annexed back as back to the governorate of Basra. Which it was before, of course. So we have the Saudi Arabia joker. So this is going to be quite something to follow.
I think it's important, Pepe, what's going on in terms of Saudi Arabia and UAE. There somehow you see some sort of fracture and difference looking at the two states. They had it before this war happening in Yemen. They were somehow fighting each other. And right now, as time goes by and what the reality of war is happening, the reality is coming up to the surface. You see, these phone calls have meanings. We have to understand, why do they need to call Vladimir Putin? They did it before. And right now, again, he's doing this. And because after all, let's assume Donald Trump was talking about selling F-35 to Saudi Arabia. What does that mean for Saudi Arabia? Nothing.
Nothing. So yes, and this whole thing changed radically. The week is not even over, but the whole thing really changed during this week, starting with that quad in Islamabad. Very important to remind all of you. It was not a Sunni axis. This is bullshit. People who are spewing that out, they have no idea what they're talking about. It was 4 Muslim nations that got together over the Organization of Islamic Conference, over the GCC, over whatever multilateral organization, Islamic, Muslim, etc. With Pakistan more or less as the coordinator. So Pakistan, Egypt, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia. Theoretically, they were discussing what they could propose as a sort of let's say, a crypto approximation between Washington and Tehran. So they go to Islamabad, they have this blah, 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 everybody's smiling. Smiling about what? The photos are pathetic. You have these 4 stooges smiling like they are in a country club. Okay. So obviously they didn't come up with anything very solid. This explains why the foreign minister of Pakistan had to hop on a plane the next morning and go to Beijing to talk to the people who really count, the Chinese. So he went there to meet Wang Yi. Right. This was obviously discussed before. The Chinese obviously, because they have a close relationship with Pakistan, China-Pakistan economic corridor, etc. They said, okay, you go there, you discuss, but as soon as you finish, you come here to tell us if you arrived at something. Obviously, the Chinese knew that you would arrive at nothing. But, and that's the major but, after Dar meets with Wang Yi, they release a 5-point joint statement. And when you read that joint statement, I read the joint statement, I think at least 3 times. I say, are they really saying that? Because it's a collection of cliches. Like, you know, if they believe that the United Nations Security Council or people will be respecting the UN Charter when the US can veto anything. It's completely absurd. So this was not... we can interpret it, as I try to interpret it, as a Chinese diversion tactic to appease everybody. But the real discussions are going to be between China, Russia, and Iran, but in the background, not with these 4. So, you know, Pakistan had a momentary protagonist role setting up this meeting in Islamabad. Now nobody's talking about Pakistan anymore, because the whole thing collapsed during the week already. And even before the Stone Ages rambling, blah, 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 by the baboon of Barbaria. But this lasted for maybe 2 days maximum. And everybody knows that what really matters will be discussed by the new Primakov triangle, RIC, Russia, Iran, China. And of course, the Chinese are not going to play their game in public. This is going to be very discreet. Another reason why the Chinese could not possibly endorse anything that was discussed by the 4 Muslims, how can the Chinese possibly be the guarantor of a so-called peace plan and take the risk to be the guarantor when they know that they are dealing on the other side, they are dealing with a bunch of barbarians on the other side? For them, remember Lavrov, the United States is non-agreement capable. That's even more forceful now than before applied to Ukraine, now applied to Iran, the same thing. So the Chinese will never risk their diplomatic reputation. So that's why the conversations that really matter will be between the RIC, the new Primakov triangle, Russia, and we will only know at the last minute. And just to finish this stretch, Nima, yesterday, the Iranian ambassador in Moscow comes up, he gives an interview to TASS, and he reiterates the same Iranian points from the beginning, now reduced to 4. There used to be 9, then 5, but the 4 main ones, everybody knows the 4 main ones. End of the war, end of their new sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, guarantees that they won't be attacked again. This means guarantees at the level of UN Security Council. It doesn't matter much because the Americans break any guarantees, but there's going to be a guarantees that the whole planet can see that it's a document over there. And if the Americans break it, it's proven that they broke it. And of course, the nuclear program, the civilian nuclear program, continues. Everybody knows this. So when you compare these 4 points with the China-Pakistan 5 points, there's a lot of discrepancy. So the only rational explanation is that the Chinese didn't want to compromise themselves with anything, knowing that they cannot trust many, I would say most of these other Muslim nations. Pakistan, Maybe because they have a closer relationship. They cannot trust Turkey. They cannot trust Egypt, even though Egypt is a BRICS member, but Egypt basically, their government is aligned with the Zionists. And Saudi Arabia, once again, the wild card, the joker. Nobody knows where Saudi Arabia is going next. So this whole thing, Nima, it's amazing. It lasted less than 3 days. After 3 days, the whole thing collapsed, and the new narrative was Trump is going to announce a land invasion. Or he's going to announce that he's bringing the troops home. A lot of very well-informed American analysts were saying before, he's going to announce that he's bringing the troops home, because he's looking at the numbers, he's looking at his popularity plunging to a dark abyss, he's looking at the bond market, he's looking at the oil market, he's looking at the SP 500. In the end, this is what we saw. We saw an unhinged psycho killer basically saying that they want to destroy a nation of 90 million people. What kind of de-escalation is that? This is even worse than a land invasion. Any land invasion, as we all know, Nima, is condemned to beyond failure. It's not even failure. But this is worse. This is a deliberate bombing of the infrastructure of a whole state, and with no discrimination. The way he framed, obviously, his English is an English of a 3-year-old maximum. But the way he spoke it, reading his own teleprompter, by the way, is that this is an extermination, a decapitation campaign against the whole population of Iran. And that's why it's so serious. And it doesn't, I'm not surprised by the fact that there's not a single repudiation coming from the so-called international community. Nothing. Nobody's saying anything.
Yeah. Pepe, I think you're right about
this way. Sorry if I ask you this. I would like to ask you a question. Did you interpret his speech the same way?
Yeah, I did. I really think that he's gonna attack each and everything in Iran when it comes to the hospitals, pharmaceutical plants, schools, universities, everything, highways, everything. He's gonna destroy. He wants to destroy everything before leaving the Middle East. That's the plan on his part, because from the strategic point of view, the whole operation was a total failure. He couldn't do anything militarily to defeat Iran militarily and strategically. That's why he's attacking civilians, because he wants to bring the pain to the society. He wants to put the Iranian economy in some sort of turmoil, problems, popping up in Iran. This is what he's planning for, because he couldn't do it militarily, strategically, defeating Iran. But the repercussions of what he's gonna do and what he has done so far are grave for the whole region. It's unbelievably that I think that's important to consider. How that would influence the whole region, not only the Arab states, together with Israel, I would say. Is Israel going to survive that? This is, I think, as time goes by, with 2 or 4 weeks ahead, Iran gonna hit Israel the way that they have never experienced before. They're gonna hit everything in Israel if the United States start or continue on this path. I don't know how is that going to play out for Donald Trump. How do you see the pressure on Israel? How do you see the way that Iran would bring some sort of disaster? Israel would somehow stop, everything gonna stop in Israel.
Which will be the next logical step in the Iranian strategy. Raise Israel to the ground, paralyze the functioning of the Israeli economy and the Israeli state, attack all their key nodes, basically paralyze them, make that mini state non-viable. They have 4 weeks to do that. considering that they have not even started properly, 4 weeks is more than enough to destroy most of what carries some sort of value in Israel. Connectivity corridors, research centers, scientific centers, especially all the military nodes, all the special military. Israel basically it's small, but it's an enormous military base. So hit all the key nodes of this military base. They can do this in 4 weeks. And then obviously we're going to have once again a phone call to the White House, and all bets are off on what the baboon is going to say. He could say, there's nothing I can do to help you. He can say, look, I'm leaving this war, it's not my war. Or he could double down and bomb even more of Iran. We don't know what might happen, but there's a serious possibility that he will extricate himself. Of course, he cannot do that because we all know why. Nah? The donors, compromise on Epstein files, you name it. But considering that now he is, if there was a psychological examination of his brain at the moment, the result would be lunatic asylum straight away. Considering that he now is completely unhinged, anything is possible. As long as he has something after these self-imposed 4 weeks to sell to domestic American opinion, not to the world, because nobody around the world is buying anything he says anymore, but to a fraction of U.S. public opinion, that he won, which is the famous, okay, that's it, we bombed everything, we won, let's do something else. Which is what he could have said that yesterday. He had an opening to do that yesterday. He decided, perhaps at the last minute, to prolong it for another 2 to 4 weeks. Once again, and now our analysis of destruction of Iran as much as possible totally fits. In his revengeful mind, that's it. Since I could not win, I'm going to destroy them. But obviously, he's not calculating, because he doesn't, because he's not a strategist. He's not calculating the amount of punishment that Iran can deliver to Israel in the next few weeks. So that's why we still don't know how he would react by the end of April. Because in his mind, this thing ends one way or another by the end of April, because in May, there's the trip to China. He needs to arrive in China with something. He cannot arrive in China as a defeated potentate. And, of course, starts thinking about the midterms already. And, of course, in parallel and inbuilt in all that, there's the destruction of the global economy. If this thing goes on for another 4 weeks, then the destruction of the global economy is irreversible, and it's going to take years to more or less come back to something approaching a normality. And everybody already agrees on that. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, even American studies already agree about it. Some are saying that if we stopped now, it would take until the end of the year, maybe next year, to go back to some sort of normality. If it goes on for another 4 weeks, then we should start thinking about years of disaster ahead. So that's it. We are in the path of, in another 4 weeks, the amount of disaster inflicted on the global economy will be irreversible, with unimaginable consequences, especially for indebted countries, countries that have no access to oil and gas, you name it. It's terrifying, Nima. Can you imagine? Because essentially, if we want to narrow it down, essentially because of two war criminals, most of the planet is plunged into this dark void. It is really, it's terrifying. Yes, please, go ahead. Go ahead.
The war, Pepe, so far, look at the targets that Iranian had. It was basically radars, the gathering of American soldiers, you know, the weapons, ammunition, everything they had in the region. They were basically the main targets of Iranian attacks, not only in the Arab states, but also in Israel as well. You know, so right now, I think one of the reasons you look at the curve, you know, initial days of this war, you see the curve of the number of drones and missiles fired by Iran was so high. Then as they destroyed everything in these bases, you see the number is just getting, you know, to the stable line. And right now, I think the sustainability of war was in the mind of Iran, how to sustain this war, how to continue this war as time goes by. But if the United States escalates, because Donald Trump is talking about 4 weeks, in the mind of Iranian, it's not 4 weeks, it's going to be long game. It's a long war. You know, even Israeli media is just saying that. You know, yesterday they have more than 760 drones were shot at Israel, and mostly sensitive locations in Israel were hit by these drones. And the estimation on the part of Israelis is that these Iranians are producing huge number of accurate and cheap attack drones. And Iran is preparing for a long battle. This is the calculation on the part of Israelis. I think that's the reality that, you know, from what I understand, you know, from the Iranian military and their strategy is this way. They want to continue this war. They won't, you know, go up and down. If some escalation happening, as Donald Trump was talking about yesterday, they're going to respond the same way, even twofold, you know, 2 times, 3 times the way that they're attacking Iranian infrastructure. But we have to understand that all around Iran, you see from Iraqi Kurdistan, you know, going to the south, we have these American bases, these, you know, somehow collaborators with the United States. So Iran must take care of all of these issues around the country. That's why, you know, I think even with the attacks on desalination, schools, water resources, Iran keeps its focus on the strategic targets. But as these targets are totally depleted, I think, totally, you know, out of work, they're not working anymore for the United States, that could hugely influence the economy in a long run, as you've mentioned, because it goes to the oil facilities, gas facilities, desalination. These are huge escalations, as Donald Trump was talking about it just yesterday.
Well, the most rational strategy for Iran now would be to raise Israel to the ground, much more than the Gulf petromonarchies. And the Gulf petromonarchies, the important stuff in Bahrain and Kuwait was already hit. They can re-hit them. Saudi Arabia depends on how Saudi is going to act from now on, of course. And the key target is the Emirates, because once again, the Emirates are de facto at war against Iran. So Iran should go against the infrastructure of the Emirates, and that's it. It's not very complicated to erase it, you know, because they already know what's coming from the Epstein syndicate combo, which is indiscriminate bombing, nonstop. So they have to respond in kind. And these are the 2 key targets, Israel and UAE. Probably this is going to be the logic already starting from now on, the next few weeks. And obviously, off-ramps are out of the question. You saw the attempted assassination of Kamal Karazi. His wife was killed, and he's probably seriously injured. He was one of the last negotiators still alive. After Karazi, there will be no negotiators left. It will be an IRGC hardcore. That's it. And they will go all the way. So the possibilities of an off-ramp they diminished substantially this week, this past 48 hours. So that's it. We are into the logic we are into the infernal escalation machine, as I dubbed it in one of my articles last week. We are right in the middle of a non-holds-barred escalation machine with no off-ramp. It is terrifying, really. At least from the point of view, coming back to the big picture, we already have some of the results of this war, whatever happens next. One, the Empire of Chaos will never gonna get these military bases in West Asia back. Never. These are gone forever. Number one. And this was one of Iran's demands. Number two, the new regime in the Strait of Hormuz. That's it. It's not going to back to what it was before. It will be negotiated with Oman. So the Iranians already set up how it's going to work on Iranian territorial waters. And Oman can do the same thing if tankers go through Omani territorial waters. Same thing. But it's both of them. It's a different system, completely different. Half of it is already in effect. That's it. You need to pay the toll booth. You need to communicate your essential information. You need approval by the IRGC Navy. Then it's okay. There are different strata. You can have government-to-government deals. For instance, already applies to Sri Lanka, Thailand, Philippines, India, already applies. It may apply to Iraq. It may apply to others as well later. With China, no problem. It's part of their strategic partnership. So let's see the West, and especially the West that applies sanctions to Iran. These are completely red card to all of them. So we will depend to perhaps individual Western nations trying to strike deals with Iran. That's another story. But the new system is already there. It has been approved by the Iranian parliament, and that's it. It's going to become law, and that's it. And there's nothing nobody can do about that. So these results are not provisional results. These are long-term results of the war already in front of us. And the third one, which is more immaterial, almost metaphysical, is that the aura of invincibility of the empire, it's over also forever. And this has been seen by the Arab street, by the lens of Islam, by the global south, by everybody who has eyes and a functioning brain. That's it. They will never recover from that. So couple all of the above with the petro-yuan in effect in the most important choke point of the planet. That's it. You have, I would say, 70 to 80% of the most important consequences of the war already happening. So what do they plan to achieve, Nima? Bomb Iran to rubble? Is this going to change any of the above? No, absolutely nothing. The horror story will be, of course, for Iran as a nation and for 90 million Iranians. But they may rebuild. They have in them to rebuild. And the example of a sovereign resistance civilization state going head to head with the empire practically alone and making the empire scream, wow. This is the big lesson of the 21st century, which none of us was expecting would happen so fast. It's happening right now in front of us. This is the way multipolarity begins, under fire. There's no other way. That's it. So obviously, Nima, we cannot expect those barbarians to understand conceptually what we're talking about. They feel that everything that they had imagined, not planned because they didn't plan anything, everything that they imagined went horribly wrong. Now they want it to end, they don't know how. And they know that if it ends with their defeat, with their strategic defeat, which hurts even more. So there's no way out for them. This, in many ways, explains their blind rage. So, you know, their blind rage is diverted to bombing civilian infrastructure. If this is going to change anything, no, it won't. And it will harden Iranian resolve even more. Now I have a question for you, Nima. It's very sensitive. It's of course it's speculative, considering it comes from different points across the Shiite world, across the Arab world, across Islam as well, and some informed people across the West. Can we say that the IRGC now is in full control of the Iranian state, and Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei is a sort of virtual, referential, very important figure, but he's not making the final decisions? I'm asking for your personal analysis. You can give your analysis as an Iranian. It doesn't have to be a geopolitical analysis.
No,
right?
no. I think what's going on in the era of, you know, the new leader, the new supreme leader of Iran, Mojtaba Khamenei, Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei, is that he's going to be pretty much, in my opinion, he's going to have the same sort of relationship with IRGC. It means that he, after all, he's going to call the shots. It's not IRGC, but he has a very robust and close relationship with IRGC. You know, somehow we can say that both are the same, you know. We can, I think the correct way is that there is no gap between the two. That's why they're so united in their goals, in their aims, in their objectives. So there is no way to go, you know, to find something bit in between, you know, some sort of gap. So what would be the strategy as time goes by with this war in the Middle East, in my opinion, would be the supreme leader of Iran, together with IRGC, they don't see these Arab states, the people who are living in these Arab states, as their enemy. They see them as their brothers, as their sisters. This is the reality. People need to understand that. And what is happening in terms of the leaderships in this country is something totally different. And they recognize the difference between the people and the leadership in these countries. And that's why I think in a long run, the policy would be getting closer to the people in the region. You know, making the resistance, the whole Pepe, you look at the axis of resistance, it's not based on, you know, some people who are running the show who are close to each other, the leader of, you know, resistance in Iraq and the leader of resistance in Yemen. It's about the people. You know, what, you know, the Shia faith that is bringing all of them together. I think that after what has happened in Gaza, in the West Bank, is bringing not only Shia Muslim, but Sunni Muslim all together. You know, that's a new sort of tone. That's a new sort of attitude, a new sort of move that is happening from within the Muslim community. And many people in the West, they don't understand it. They don't appreciate what's going on. That's why Benjamin Netanyahu is talking about, he wants to make some sort of alliance against the axis of resistance. God, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Mhm.
You know, if MBS or MBZ, you know, Mohammed bin Zayed decides to make some sort of alliance with Benjamin Netanyahu, it's going to be he, you know, MBZ together with his people, going to be 20 people, 100 people. That's all. It's not about the population in those countries. We have to understand that. We have to understand what's going on. You mentioned the case of Bahrain, the case of Kuwait. These are huge, you know, sort of changes that are happening in the region. And Iran understands that. That's why I don't see, even not only between IRGC and the supreme leader of Iran, I would say even those people mostly to the, you know, the reformists, you know, you see the way that, you know, Pezeshkian, just compare Pezeshkian today and Pezeshkian what it was when he was elected. You mostly, you just read his tweets today, you know, yesterday, and the tweets he was, you know, he was posting before, you know, when he got elected in Iran.
Yeah, the open letter.
The tone has changed. The tone has changed. There is no difference. The people trying to draw a line between IRGC and reformists and leader, I think they're all getting together because this is Iran fighting the empire. Is not, you know, IRGC fighting the empire. It's Iran, the whole Iran, the population. Iran as a country is fighting the empire and its vassal, its proxy in the Middle East, which is Israel. This is the reality, I think.
Did you have I haven't seen this anywhere. Was there any direct communication between Ayatollah Sistani or Ayatollah Sistani's office and Ayatollah Mujtaba so far?
They have.
I haven't found this anywhere.
They have close connections. They have close connections. Actually, he was congratulating Mujtaba Khamenei on his new position as the supreme leader of Iran. He issued.
Sure, but I'm talking about closer contacts, not only this formal acknowledgement.
I see.
People are talking, I imagine.
They're talking all the time. 24/7, they're talking to each other. There is not only between Ayatollah Sistani and supreme leader of Iran, but also the whole axis of resistance. They are communicating with each other.
That's for sure.
That's a huge communication line that is happening. You know, before Pepe, the war happening, nobody was even thinking of the resistance in Iraq. They did everything. You know, we were talking about Yemenis and Ansarullah. We were talking about Hezbollah. And you know how they were underestimating the two parties, Yemenis and Hezbollah. They're totally different from what they were pictured before in the mainstream media. And right now, they know the reality of these two forces. The importance of Iraq, Pepe, is something else because Iraq is on the border, has a common border with Iran, and they are close to these, you know, Iraqi Kurdistan, these Kurdish, you know, terrorist groups. They are the basic line against these Kurdish terrorists if they decide to do something. That's why I think Iran has totally dominated the region so far. Everything is under the control of Iran. And that's why many people, they're so comfortable with the war they're in. They know what they're doing. They know what is the long run, what would be in a long run. But Donald Trump is trying to disrupt everything by attacking civilians, bring the pain to the people. This is what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
And the other point, Pepe, for you, my question to you is how Russia sees the whole situation right now. We had
that's tricky. That's very, very tricky. Very tricky. Well, we were supposed to go there this month, but they canceled everything in Moscow. We were told that there's total concentration on the war. So, you know, meetings or conferences, they cancel everything in April. But there's the debate now in Moscow, it's very sophisticated, it's very tricky, because there are a lot of people making direct comparisons between the Kremlin's attitude towards the SMO and the Iranians' attitude towards the American war against them. And some of these comparisons are not very flattering to the Russians. We can imagine how. But still, it's these discussions are very, very tricky, because depending on how you formulate it, you can instantly be branded as non-patriotic or a traitor. So you can compare the methodology of the SMO, of the Kremlin, of the Russian Ministry of Defense, and the fact that why they have not, I would say, went for the kill, for the jugular of NATO so far. And we understand the motivation long term. And of course, in the case of Iran, they need to go for the jugular like they started to do from the beginning, because for them it's an existential war. It's a war inside the Iranian nation. The war in Ukraine is different. It's inside the new regions of Russia, but it comes from outside. It comes from another nation supported by NATO. That's a completely different story. But I'm very curious next time I am in Moscow to get deeper into it, because there are some rumblings that maybe the situation is about to change. That perhaps Russia this year, finally they go for the coup de grace, and the pieces of the puzzle are being moved in a sense that Russia has a very strong probability this year to go for the kill, if they choose to. Iran is not a matter of choosing. Iran has only one choice: defend themselves and inflict maximum punishment to the Americans and the Israelis. It's different. So, but in terms of the support, for instance, what Lavrov said a few days ago was fascinating. He confirmed that Russia is supporting Iran, but he didn't get into details, because these details are a matter of the Minister of Defense and the big guy up there. It's a state secret. But everybody knows that it's substantial, especially in terms of intelligence, and especially in terms of precise satellite coordinates for the Iranians, so they know exactly what they're going to strike, and they strike with maximum precision. This is the merit of Russian intel. No question about that. So this is not going to change. And of course, there is, once again, rumors. But okay, we have to, first we have to see where these rumors are coming from. That there was an unmistakable message from the Kremlin that if Israel tries a tactical nuke or even a nuke against Iran, there will be consequences. And I'm sure the Americans got the message. Obviously, those psycho killers in Tel Aviv, they don't get messages from anybody. But I'm sure the Americans got the message and told the Israelis, go slow, because then if it happens, it's not us. You're on your own. But the situation, as we all see, is moving literally all the time. It's totally fluid. It can go anywhere. All horrible options remain on the table. And of course, because of that, all the possible rational off-ramps are not on the table, or they stay on the table 1-2 days and then they disappear again.
I think, Pepe, what the outcome of this war for Iran would be, they're gonna, after all, they're gonna withdraw from NPT. Iran is not going to be part of NPT.
They have to. They have to. They have to. There's no sense for them to be in the NPT anymore.
Yeah. And in terms of the nuclear program, Iran is not going to negotiate with the United. Iran doesn't care anymore about sanctions, about anything. Because right now with the Strait of Hormuz, and their plan is somehow changing from petrodollar to yuan dollar. They know how important it is.
It's already petro-yuan. And they found a source of income. So they don't even need to sanction. So what? Now we have our own income. We collect our own income in our own territory. This beats any sanctions. In fact, they found with one move, it's fascinating, Nima. At the same time, they beat sanctions, SWIFT, and petrodollar with one move. This is beyond clever. Obviously, they gamed that before. This was one of the first things, obviously, that they gamed years ago, certainly. But that's what it took to, and this is the move that destabilized the empire completely. Once again, because these idiots never, I'm not talking about the industrial military complex as a whole. I'm talking about the idiots around Trump, the 3 or 4 people that he listens to. Obviously, they never planned it. They never thought that this would be feasible. Once again, they thought that they had a weekend war, that they would win, and on Monday it will be mission accomplished, and the market's going up. And now it's too late. And you can see the rats scurrying as the Titanic flounders, right, Nima? He's trying to throw anybody in front of him under the bus. It's not my responsibility. Now it's the responsibility of NATO as well. So it's the planet's responsibility, except his. And he's the guy who gave the final order. Typical, man. Cowards. All cowards react the same way.
I think NATO is done, Pepe, with what has happened in this war against Iran. Because Europeans are somehow, even Austria came out today, said you cannot use our airspace to attack or bases to attack Iran. And this is the new reality that Donald Trump is so much difficult for him to digest, because for such a long time he was putting pressure on them, from 2% to 5%. No, the people would ask themselves in Europe, what is happening? If they cannot defend, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, and how come they can, how come can they, how come would that be possible? Or somehow, is it possible for the United States to help Europe anymore? Because they have these forces in Germany for such a long time. It's not something new. In the aftermath of World War II, they're in Germany, and AfD, the head of AfD, is talking about the United States should leave Germany. This is the reality. The new reality is not just about the leadership, but the people are feeling that way. What is the importance of the United States in Europe anymore? If Iran can remove the United States from the Middle East, for Russia, it's going to be just easy to remove the United States if they attack. And Europe needs to make some sort of understanding of what's going on. I think with the Strait of Hormuz, they're coming to some sort of sense. They want to break a deal for Iran, with Iran, without the United States. Do you see that happening in Europe, understanding the reality?
Let's say that it took them something like this, which is, okay, sooner or later, you're going to have zero energy to wake them up a little bit. We don't know what's going to happen next. Another very important and in effect consequence of the war, the progressive dismantling of NATO. It's already in effect. NATO, many of us were talking, okay, the NATO and the EU are going to collapse. It's going to take a while. It's going to be a parallel process. Much, much faster than any of us could ever imagine. NATO is already collapsing now, in real time, in front of all of us. And it was not because of Ukraine, of the proxy war in Ukraine. It's because of the empire, the war of choice of the empire against Iran, because then it touches. It's, of course, Ukraine has an energy component, no question. But this is much, much more serious. Strait of Hormuz is the ultimate bottleneck. If you touch the Strait of Hormuz, the whole global economy is affected. And Europeans, now they see that they don't have energy, extra energy from anywhere. No Russia, no Qatar, nothing. They have to do something. So maybe this is the beginning of, I wouldn't bet on it, Nima, considering the astonishing mediocrity of the whole European political class, with 2 or 3 exceptions. But obviously they are already starting to, okay, we need to do something. Okay, at least. But the process of the parallel collapse of the EU and NATO got a big boost with the war as well. That's another positive consequence. How they're going to fare without the US, that's another story. It's their problem. They never thought this day would come. It's right, it's knocking on their doors now, and they have to come up with a solution. And when you hear, of course, they will never change their mindset from one day to another. I was reading the usual, Polish or Baltic Chihuahuas, Finland, saying, now we need to reconstitute our defenses against Russia. It's always against Russia, right? Okay, with their spectacular armies, we cannot conquer a hot dog stand, and they want to reconstitute their armies to fight Russia. Good luck.
Amazing. Yeah. I think Donald Trump asking Poland to send their Patriot.
He said, no, we have 1 or 2.
You know, after South Korea, right now Poland, and are you gonna, send everything to help Israel? It's unbelievable.
It is.
People need to understand, the United States is prepared to sacrifice everything for Israel.
Of course, but now it's in the open. It's not unbelievable. It's believable because now everyone has proof in front of the whole planet that the only thing that matters for them is that cult over there. Everybody else is a vassal that you can use, you can profit from. But, when the going gets tough, that's it. You have to save the death cult.
Yeah. Obrigado, Pepe.
Opa, obrigado a você. Melhorou o meu humor. Eu estava muito deprimido.
Mas eu acho que...
I told Nima that I was very depressed. By talking to him, spirits lift.
Exactly. Thank you, Pepe. Grande prazer, como sempre.
Grande prazer. Thank you, Nima.
Espero ver você aqui no Brasil. Você tem que voltar para o Brasil.
If I go to Brazil, it might be by the end of the year. It's a long way away. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, everybody. A luta continua.
Exatamente. Yeah.
Tchau.
Tchau.